There is no question when someone says that Pele is the king of football. It's like part of our initial theory when talking about this sport. You like football, so do you know who the king is? Of course, it's Pele. But of course, to become king, you have to go through one of these two things. Either you follow the line to become the next king from your family, or people worship and give you that title. Here is the video where you can find that answer. Why is Pele called the king of football? Right in the middle of the 2022 World Cup, when Pele's condition showed signs of deterioration, Kylian Mbappe himself sent a prayer for the king on his personal page. It can be seen that young rising stars still pay homage to the so-called king of football. Of course, for both the Brazilians and the players here, Pele is simply the only king even if posterity has produced any great stars. We'll get right to the first reason. Because of one simple thing, Pele was the first player to amaze the world. Remember, it was an era where you didn't have satellite TV, no internet and of course YouTube to be able to watch highlight goals. But he was still a star, became a Hollywood actor, became the cover of magazines around the world and even sang with the guitar plucked romantically. Pele is the first football player to cross the boundaries of football to reach the whole world. And be the first to use his influence on every aspect of football life. Just like that, Pele has globalized his image in the 50s or 60s. He is the template by which all modern footballers have been shaped. And that's we're not even talking about the magic this man creates on the field. Pele's full name is Edson Arones do Nascimento. This name was named by his parents after the famous inventor Thomas Edison. Little Edson loved football since he was a kid, even when his mother tried to ban him from playing football. His father, of course, loved the game, but terrible injuries prevented the unfortunate man's career. This means that the whole family grew up in poverty. So Pele got to football playing barefoot with soccer balls made from a sock stuffed with newspapers and tied together with string. Pele is a striker. Although quite small, he still has Ronaldo's finishing and scoring skills. Combined with the technical performance of other legends, such as Zidane, who is always full of tricks in every match. Pele's love for football was inherently accompanied by a natural talent and willingness to prove his mother wrong by forbidding him to play. Because by the age of 15, he had played for Santos and even played for the Brazilian national team before turning 17. A famous anecdote when Pele was a child was that in 1950, when Pele was 10 years old, he watched his father cry non-stop when Brazil lost the World Cup final at home to Uruguay. He asked why and his dad said it's hard for a man to cry all the time but on the pitch he does. At that time, the boy Pele said, "Don't cry, Dad, I will win the World Cup for you." 8 years after Pele was barely 18 years old, he became the youngest footballer to appear at the 1958 World Cup held in Sweden. And this is what he achieved. Becoming the youngest person to assist at the World Cup, the youngest to score a hat-trick at the World Cup and the youngest to score twice in the final game. Scored 6 goals in 4 games and then collapsed in happiness for fulfilling his promise to his father. 17 years old, which means Pele still has a career ahead of him despite becoming a World Cup champion. Of course, there is one thing that you all talk about when talking about Pele's career. That he played most of his career at Santos and did not play for a European team. But not because the giants of the old continent didn't want to bring him with them. In fact, a plan was put in place to prevent this, when Pele was declared a national treasure by the president. After the success in 1958, all eyes of the football world were on Pele. Real Madrid, Juventus, Inter and Manchester United all wanted to bring him back to their teams. But then the president of Brazil declared him a country and it was a crime for him to be sold. This is also the time when people started calling Pele king. In the 484th issue of the Paris Match magazine in May 1958, after Brazil's World Cup victory in Sweden, they used 2 pages to publish a picture of Pele. The newspaper's reporter Jean Manzan then titled it, Pele, 17 ans, Roi do Brésil, or, Pele, 17 years old, King of Brazil. Roi is the French word for king. So, it could be said that Pele's nickname originated in France, and the Paris Match newspaper discovered that greatness first. The fact that Pele has never officially played in Europe is often an excuse for commentators to criticize him. They even called Pele someone who played in a farmers' tournament. Even if we could argue for hours about the level of South American football, or how important many South American players were to teams in Europe, Football at the time was completely different with now. In those days, international transfers were not a common practice. Even if they want to leave, the player must change their nationality, in other words, they are nationalized. The same thing happened with legends like Alfredo Di Stefano and Ferenc Puskás in Spain or Serie in Italy. It is also known as brain drain. And it's very limited happening. And now imagine that if transcontinental transfers didn't happen, the likes of Neymar, Lionel Messi, Di Maria and Luis Suarez all played in the Copa Libertadores. Therefore, that trophy also becomes more difficult to win. But it was Pele who also showed Europe what he was capable of. Because he traveled with Santos to win 2 Intercontinental Cups against AC Milan of Cesar Maldini, Rivera and Trapattoni. And win against Benfica of Eusebio and Santano too. The reputation of Santos and Pele was so great that day that they were a favorite and known club around the world. And the reason is simple. Everyone wants to see Pele play. Santos makes a lot of money from this activity. In 1959, for example, the Brazilian team played 99 matches in South and Central America. Then also toured in Bulgaria, Belgium, Netherlands, Italy, Germany, Switzerland, Spain. Can you imagine? They are like a band and always sell out in every country. By 1962, Santos came to England and every match in the cities of the foggy country was sold out. The Guardian reporter at the time, Eric Todd, described what happened as follows. At that time, everyone ran out of words to describe Pele. A famous defender at the time faced Pele and spent only the last 10 minutes chasing him, but not for the ball, but for the convenience of asking for a shirt at the end of time. Pele is simply the man the world would pay to watch him play. Pele and Santos' world tour even ended the war. Nigeria was in the midst of a violent civil war when Pele landed there to play a friendly match against the national team. Both sides agreed to a ceasefire so the match could go ahead and the Nigerians celebrated as the king of football played. When the 1970 World Cup took place, that tournament took a step forward to be broadcast worldwide on color television. Finally, the whole world could see Pele play football and win the title for the 3rd time in his life. From that moment on, no one denied that Pele was king because everyone had seen what they wanted to see. In short, Pele is king because in an era of 10 years he has made the world go viral. By the time he retired, he was the ambassador who helped spread football to the United States, who would sit at the table with popes, foreign ministers and kings. He was a friend of Nelson Mandela and Queen Elizabeth knighted him even though he was not of English descent. Have you seen a player who has earned the same respect in all other eras? From Maradona, Cruyff, Zidane, Ronaldo to Messi? Of course not. Only a king has such majesty.